So on to Sigmund Freud. He's still persona non grata, I would say, among experimental psychologists and probably clinical psychologists as well. But that seems to me to be very unfair. Freud is one of those thinkers who all that's left are his mistakes. And the reason for that is that everything that he discovered or put forward is so entrenched in our culture now that we think it's self-evident. And so everything correct has been assimilated, and that just leaves everything that's more or less floating on top to look wrong. But Freud is also one of those thinkers who was always wrong in an interesting way, and that's very useful. And so I also think that many of the things that he put his finger on that are still disputed, for example, the idea of the Oedipus complex, are much more useful than people are willing to admit, especially in the clinical realm, because the Oedipal complex, which we'll talk about quite a bit, is actually a description of a fairly stable form of familial psychopathology, where a child gets trapped within the confines of a family because the relationship with one parent or the other or both is so tight that they can't break beyond it, and maybe because of their own inability to move towards independence, but more frequently because of what you might describe as a kind of conspiracy between the son and the parent, or the child and the parent, that prevents them from moving towards autonomous life. Freud said, "I started my professional activity as a neurologist trying to bring relief to my neurotic patients. Under the influence of an older friend and by my own efforts, I discovered some important new facts about the unconscious in psychic life, the role of instinctual urges, and so on. Out of these findings grew a new science, psychoanalysis, a part of psychology, and a new treatment for the neuroses. I had to pay heavily for this bit of good luck. People did not believe in my facts and thought my theories unsavory. Resistance was strong and unrelenting. In the end, I succeeded in inquiring pupils and building up an international psychoanalytic association, but the struggle is not over." He made that recording just shortly before he died. He moved to England to escape the Nazis. The idea of the unconscious mind was certainly not as well developed prior to Freud as it became afterwards. And before that, I suppose you might say that insofar as people thought of the mind at all, they thought of in philosophical terms, and the mind would be that part of you that you're aware of, like in the Cartesian sense. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," and it kind of seems in some sense self-evident that you're aware of and have control over the contents of your own mind. But that was what Freud really questioned, and he questioned it deeply. He said, well, first of all, the idea that you're one thing, like one mind, is a dubious idea to begin with, because people are full of internal contradictions. And then the idea that your mind is all of one type, it's all of one form, was also very questionable as far as Freud was concerned, because you could be fractionated into subcomponents.
Demons, be gone!
Be gone, demons.
Be gone!
Leave this studio!